and welcome to Ednews TV. I am your host, John Ayomide. In today's episode, we're talking about a very notable outcomes of the World Economic Forums, which just recently happened in Davos, Switzerland. One of the establishments that we focused on would be the Boardofpeace, the President Trump, who actually just established a new organization that aimed at promoting peace around the world. Today, we are joined by Mr. Tural Ganjaliyev, a member of the National Assembly of Azerbaijan. Mr. Tural, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Just as you, of course, know about the latest outcomes of what is happening around the world, which is the Boardofpeace, the latest establishment from President Trump. Why do you think we need this kind of organization? I mean, we have United Nations, as you know, and we see that United Nations functions a lot. But do you think this organization is a message for UN itself, or why do you even think we actually need this?
We are entering a period of time, a turbulent time, which is unfortunately has so many challenges and problems in the 21st century. That's why we have so many conflicts, so many problems, economic problems, geopolitically speaking, very hard difficulties that we are facing as a mankind. And that's why, unfortunately, the international system, the architecture of the international security, which was established after the Second World War, did not yield its results anymore. And unfortunately, it has not been able to successfully function. Just as an example, the conflict between Armenia and Azerbaijan, which started in the early 1990s after the collapse of the Soviet Union, was one of the tests for the international community, especially for the United Nations, for the Organization of the Security and Cooperation in Europe. We call it OSCE shortly. But unfortunately, we haven't seen any kind of positive attitude, positive steps from this kind of organizations. Instead of resolving this conflict, they started to consolidate the results of the conflict, which was to consolidate the de facto situation and leave the occupied territories of Azerbaijan under the occupation of Armenia, which was not acceptable for us, for Azerbaijan, first of all. And secondly, what we have seen afterwards, unfortunately, we have taken responsibility into our hands. And what we have seen, unfortunately, of the international organizations, that they cannot help us in this regard. That's why in 2020, Azerbaijan decided to launch a military campaign in order to liberate our lands from Armenian occupation. And we did it according to the United Nations Charter and according to the Article of 51, which is the self-defense, right of self-defense. And nobody in the world has anything against Azerbaijan because we acted upon the international law, we acted upon the international, the main international organization of the United Nations and according to its charter. But what we have seen afterwards, again, the campaigns against Azerbaijan, some circles, political circles in the European Union and the West, seem that they are not ready to digest as president of Azerbaijan.
We're talking about bias from the countries.
That's why the new organization, the Peace Council organization that was proposed by Trump in Davos Forum, I think that it is because of the dysfunction of the international organizations and because of their incapacity to address any problems that we have in our time. That's why, this proposal came into existence and Azerbaijan accepted a very gentle invitation by President Trump. And now we are seeing establishment of the new organization. We will see how it follows, but it seems that it has so many strong kind of support from already around 60 countries in the world.
So you're talking about Azerbaijan that accepted this invitation by President Trump, and including the Prime Minister of Armenia, Pashinyan, who also accepted this. And we also saw both of them together. They stood beside each other. They signed the agreement together. What importance do you think this achievement between this region, between Armenia and Azerbaijan, have to play in this particular board? Do you think it's very important for Azerbaijan and Armenia to be there as well? Or do you think people from around the world, I mean, the other states can learn from Azerbaijan itself?
It's both, because what we have achieved with Armenia, first of all, it was Azerbaijan who, after ending the war, proposed Armenia to prepare and sign a peace treaty. And it was Azerbaijan who come up with the proposal of the peace treaty to be signed with the participation of the with the President of the United States in Washington. That's why it is important also for the Peace Council to have such kind of experience, already resolved conflict between Armenia and Azerbaijan, kind of showing it and putting it as an example for the international community. Because I would say that in the 21st century, maybe this conflict is the only conflict, as far as I know, that has been successfully resolved. And that's why international organizations, people around the world must learn from this experience. That's why it is not by coincidence that President Trump is kind of seeing and trying to put this the conflict resolution experience and efforts in order to address international community, showing it how it was very successful kind of effort by Azerbaijan. And now we are seeing the post-conflict peace process being promoted, especially by Azerbaijan. You know that recently we have lifted all the limitations to Armenia. We have already sent cargoes and some oil. Also, the energy resources are being transported to Armenia. It's very important, the developments.
Just without taking your time, of course, as you know, in today's geopolitical or political environment, power actually plays a key role in decision making around the world. And there's one, I want to draw your attention to one key part, is that France seems to be against this idea. Canada, even China, we've seen these big power countries are against this. They don't want to join it. And there's one important part, is that the African countries, they seems to be left out of the pictures. We haven't seen any African countries who wants to join it. We have Egypt, who has a key role in the northern part of Africa. We have also South Africa as well. I mean, do you think this organization could be more effective without big powers? I mean, what do you think about this?
Yeah, very important question. First of all, let me say that France, of course, with its kind of leverage and power in the European Union, of course, sees this organization as a challenge to itself, because France is already is one of the 5 permanent members of the UN Security Council, which gives France a veto power. That's why France is a little bit afraid of this organization, and it has attitude of skeptical approach towards this organization. It's first of all, and the European Union also, it seems that they are not willing to accept this organization in the first stage. But we will follow the developments. I think that if Germany, the main biggest economy power in the European Union, will decide to join this organization, others will follow the suit. But what concerning the Africa, I think that Africa is one of the most important geography, and African countries are very important for this organization if Peace Council would like to cherish. Because without Africa, without this biggest continent of our globe, it would be impossible, you know, to declare that we have new international organizations. If you are skipping Africa, frankly speaking, I don't think that this organization can be successful. That's why I hope that the founders of this organization will. I hope that they have already plans to invite African countries like Egypt, Nigeria, you know, biggest countries, Muslim countries, non-Muslim countries have to be represented in this organization, because African countries are missing from the United Nations Security Council. Maybe this mistake could be adjusted, changed by this organization. We are looking forward to seeing African countries in this organization also.
Thank you very much for your great insight.
Pleasure.
Ladies and gentlemen, you've heard from Mr. Tural Ganjaliyev, a member of the Azerbaijan National Assembly. Thank you very much for listening to us.